an interesting conversation with potential guests at Past and Present Podcast. In the conversation, I mentioned, why can't Black people come together? Come together in solidarity to fight back. Fight back for our city. Fight back for our children who are killing each other. Fight back for our women who are being disrespected, not only by society, but by our children, our Black men. Fight back against our Black women who are dying on the hospital tables while giving birth to our children. Fight back to the fact they're not heard about their pains, their labor pains, the things that they're experiencing while at the hospital. Why are we not fighting back for equal rights, true equal rights, or true civil rights? Why are we not fighting back to solidarity? Why are we so separated and still let society divide us with their mathematics? Divide us so that we're easily conquered. Why are we still using words that only further the division between us? Why are we not supporting each other, building each other up? To support not just the Black agenda, but supporting Black wealth, Black growth, a healthy Black lifestyle, and a healthy lifestyle for not only our generation, but future generations, our children, securing their future, securing their financial future, securing their place in America. Finally turn the corner to make us not feel like unwanted guests in America, but people who were born here, belong here, and truly live here. Why can't we fight back? Well, a gentleman made a very good point back to my passionate argument. He simply pointed out that we'll never turn that corner as long as we still live by society's norms and their beliefs on how we're supposed to choose and act as Black people. That we still choose to live on that fault line that keeps us divided. Truthfully saying is, what he was trying to tell me is, my perspective, my point of view, was one of a fairy tale. He didn't call me delusional, but in a way, he was basically speaking on how it's kind of delusion that we think that we'll ever turn a corner, truly as Black people, see the day that we come together in solidarity, that we come together and work together to fight and accomplish something, that we finally win a battle in this country, a true battle that has meaning, that's possibly, it might be impossible or close to impossible for us to come together. Of course, this gentleman didn't mean no disrespect when he was saying these things to me, but he's speaking about the reality of this country, the reality of the mindsets of Black people. And it made me think about people like W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and how not only history has forced these people against each other, but us as Black people use words to force us against each other. And to divide even the Black leaders who were pushing for us to have a better generation, a better lifestyle, to achieve equal rights and truly see the power that exists in us. You want to talk about it more? Stay tuned as we get deeper into it next on the Past and Present Podcast. As we drive down the highway of history, we look back at two men, two scholars, two strong scholars who stood up way before the Civil Rights Movement and talked about the agenda of what the agenda should be of the Black man, the Black woman, and their purpose and their perspective of how to create wealth, growth, and knowledge in the future. Two different men with two different backgrounds, two different ways of growing up. W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington had two totally different thought processes on how the future of Black people should be. One feeling like we should fight for civil rights, other thinking that we should focus more on financial growth and ignore and put to the back burner the civil rights movement. These two gentlemen, who were the true pioneers of the civil rights movement, were also the two pioneers of the division in the Black community, where history teaches about how they were versus each other, why they fought against each other. And two different perspectives couldn't see each other's perspective and couldn't see things clearly, couldn't see things the same way. Though both ways are necessary. Which one is right, which one is wrong, that's for you to choose. That's for you to choose. I stand on the rights that yes, we do need financial growth and some knowledge of how to handle education on finances, but we truly still need civil rights. So therefore, I don't think I lean so much on Booker T. Washington's side as I do W.E. Du Bois. But why should I have to choose sides in this argument? What is this, a rap battle? Or are we going back to Nas versus Jay-Z, Tupac versus Biggie, in the East Coast, West Coast battle? Or are we making this to a rap battle and we talk about political leaders and pioneers who truly spearheaded our growth, our fight for civil rights in this country? Because, I mean, when you think about it, that's how it looks, right? You think about it. Tupac and Biggie, East Coast versus West. Tupac representing the West Coast, LA. Biggie Smalls representing New York. Two guys who were close friends. Divided. Both men died. Both men could contribute so much to music, so much to black culture, so much to art of hip hop. But they died, leaving fans completely fractured. You think about Nas and Jay-Z, two great MCs, two of arguably the top 5 MCs of all time. Two great MCs divided, leaving fans divided as they sparked a epic battle, which also changed the landscape of hip hop and rap battles, where they stopped where no one died into. And at the end, they came together to not only make songs, but make peace. But not all stories end that way. But why do we always find this fracture, this division in our community between the great minds, the great spirits in our lives, who in the black community can rise us up above the poverty level that we live in, the negativity that we live in, the limits that have been set on our lives? Why do we always find our greatest black leaders forced to divide? Now you may say to me, well, Tupac and Biggie wasn't leaders. But what's the thing? No, you may not feel rap music was a great thing, or you may have your perspective on rap music like it's a bad thing. It's an art form that tells a story that CNN couldn't begin to talk about. And though you may not agree with them being leaders, to a huge community, these people spoke to people that lived in those communities. They talked about their lives. They made them feel seen, understood, felt, the pain that they lived with. So in instance, they were truly leaders, even if you disagree. You may look at Jay-Z and now and say, well, Jay-Z's all about making money and capital. He's a capitalism. Nas is a real MC who you traded on once he did a second album, but we're not going to get too deep in hip-hop. The point is, both leading. Jay-Z leading the pack with his financial, passing out his financial, not only knowledge and wisdom to others, but helping people such as Meek Mill get released from jail. 21 Savage get released after almost being deported. But I digress. Because the point of all this is to talk about how these men, though being leaders, though using their musical arts, using their finances, their wealth, and their knowledge to push ahead the black community through ways that a lot of times we don't see, they find themselves split at the fault line, which happens too much in the black community, which leads me to two of the greatest black leaders that's well known in this country. Two men who I would say are not only the kings of the civil rights movements, but the fathers, some of the fathers, or even the godfathers of the civil rights movement. I'm talking about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. In our community, we often have the same. In the black community, we have the same. You're either Martin or you're Malcolm. Now, let me break that down to you if you're outside the black community, don't know what that means, whether you're Martin or Malcolm. See, if you're more Martin or Martin Luther King, it's more of, you kind of, I'm nonviolent, I'm all for peace, I'm not going to really push things in a lot of ways. This ain't soft, okay? Down to the point, you're soft if you're Martin Luther King. You're soft. You're more the softer. You're going to take the gentle touch on things, because Martin Luther King believed in nonviolent protest. So you look at that like, he's the peaceful guy, he's the soft guy, he doesn't really want to get his hands dirty. Where Malcolm X was completely opposite. Part of the Nation of Islam, Malcolm X believed in, hit me with a stick, I'm hitting you with a stick. By any means necessary. One of the most famous quotes and one of the most famous pictures of Malcolm X standing by a window with an AK-47 with a quote that follows, by any means necessary. When you think about Malcolm X, you think about the guy that I ain't taking your crap, I ain't down for no peace and all that. If you want war, then I give you war. We divide them. And in the midst of the civil rights movement, these two men were even more divided. Where Malcolm X used to call, Martin Luther King Uncle Tom, and other derogatory statements. Our leaders were once again divided instead of coming together. Towards the end of both their lives, which were ended shortly using violence, They came together. And though they never got a chance to truly work together for our equal rights and civil rights and to push us closer and better for our society now, our community, our generations moving forward, they eventually came together. They came together and understood that even though they had different perspectives, even though they had different point of views, where one was nonviolence and the other one believed in meeting violence with violence, I'm going to meet you and I'm going to give you the same energy you give me. They were both necessary. Not necessarily to be divided, but necessary to be together. Because how I look at things is, you need Martin and Malcolm. Sometimes you need a little Martin where you got a gentle touch. If you're in there with negotiations, when you're making plans, you're talking to certain people, yes, you need to have that political standpoint. You need to have that peaceful, that calm and collective head. But there's other times where you just got to get a little riled up and show people we're just tired. Because it's only so long as Black people we're going to continue to tap dance and stand outside the door dancing and begging for scraps before you get tired and start to rile up. And that leads us to some of the recent riots and breakouts that we had in many states in this country after police have killed young, innocent Black men without letting them see their due date in court, without proving that they were guilty of any crime. And all the crimes that these people were killed for were not even an option, would not even fit the bill for corporal punishment. I'm sorry, capital punishment, where they would have been basically killed and executed. These Black people were executed unfairly. Too many of our young people are done this way. Too many of our young people are done this way. And in the midst of that, a lot of us rised up. And you might call it, we were then turned to Malcolm, away from Martin, where we stood up. And you said you burned down your city, you tore down your city when you got tired of tap dancing in front of it. We tried the Martin approach at first. But when the Martin approach didn't work, some people turned out. The point of all this is to say is how we are divided as society, divided as Black people. We are divided as Black people using certain words. We're divided up against each other. Other people who speak and do the same thing or similar things to me divide because I don't speak about certain things the way they do. I don't have certain point of views. So they become my op. They become my enemy. They have to destroy me or want to see me become off air. They don't want to see me going on Spotify. They don't want to see me, my show going to iTunes, to Google Play Store, to all these places that you watch podcasts. They want me silenced because I talk about reparation. They want me silenced because I talk about the 13th Amendment. They want me silenced because I talk about the Tulsa, Oklahoma, and what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma when Black Wall Street was burned down. They want me silent because I speak up about things that other people won't talk about. They want me silent because I talk about George Floyd. They want me silent because I talked about Ahmaud Arbery and all the other Black people that died. They want me silent because I don't speak like they speak. They want me silent because I don't talk and say what they want me to say. They want me silent. And it hurts me that Black people, that Black men, that Black women who are serving the same purpose that I'm serving, that's trying to uplift the Black community, to uplift our children, to see our true power, to see our true integrity, to see our growth, to be seen, rather fight against me than work with me. That rather fight against other Black people than work with them. It makes me think about churches, right? It makes me think about church. You got churches, right? You got pastors in churches who have beef with other pastors. And look like, you don't like T.D. Jakes because you don't like the message T.D. Jakes speaks. You know? What's the other one named? Bishop Long. You don't like Bishop Long's way he speaks. You don't like this pastor because of the way they talk, or this pastor because how they do it and the way they tell their story. But my thing is, we all are necessary. Malcolm X is necessary. Martin Luther King is necessary. We didn't say, we need Martin Luther King. We don't need Malcolm X. No, we need both of them. Though we have different opinion with Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, even though they have different perspectives and ideology of how Black people should move forward and the things that we should focus on, which was one, Booker T. Washington felt like we should focus on civil rights, but focus on learning about finances, managing our own finances, becoming financially independent. Despite the fact of how they felt we needed both of these men, these black men. We need both of these scholars because putting these two scholars together, these different perspectives lead to us. And when you combine them, you mix them into a pot at one, they make one hell of a stew. They make us one powerful people, one powerful being that we can stand up against the society, the people who have always been looking to destroy us, to denigrate, to destroy our community. They use and they mix us up and they confuse us with words. Words that we then go speak to our children, that we speak around to our children, that we speak to each other. Because that's what we do. Like I said, we got pastors here, because I'm digressing a little bit. We got pastors here who are fighting against each other, but don't realize just because this other pastor don't speak like you do, don't send the same message, don't take the same approaches you do. Maybe they dress different than you do in the pulpit. They're necessary to reach the audience that you can't reach. You can't reach everybody. I can't reach everybody. My message, I'm not arrogant. I'm not delusional to believe that my message is reaching everybody. There's an audience that I can't touch. So I look out to the people who are out there. The people who are out there who are doing the similar things I'm doing, they're going to reach them. And I'm going to support them any way I can. I'm not trying to work against you. I'm not your enemy. I'm not your op. I'm here to support you. Yeah, bro, get your message out. Sister, get that message out. Because if you can reach those ones I can't reach, then we're reaching a generation, and we're lifting up a generation who are dying off from killing each other from the slumps. We're teaching them about financial literacy. We're teaching them about growth. We're teaching them about their power. We're teaching them about who they are. We're taking that page out of history, and pardon my French, but we're wiping our ass with it because the crap they teaching our children in school are not history. It's the history that they diluted, they watered down, and then try to spill. Because you know what they teach our kids in school. Martin Luther King had an "I had a dream" speech, and that's it. They don't teach them about Malcolm X, where he was, because Malcolm X, no one man should have all that power. You remember that quote from the movie? They don't teach about how Malcolm X's father was killed. They don't teach about how Malcolm X went on pilgrimage. They don't talk about all the great things Malcolm X did. No, what they try to show you is, they try to show him in a negative light. They try to show the fact that Malcolm X eventually broke him away from the Nation of Islam. What they try to show is, oh, Malcolm X, he's racist. No. Malcolm X believed in the power of black people. Yes, him and Martin Luther King had different opinions. Yes, it was a point where I wish they could have came together instead of by disrespecting each other and talking about each other and using words like Okutan and not working together and allowing the mathematics and society to defy them. Yes, I wish they could have fought together. I wish they could have lived long enough like Nas and Jay-Z, where they were able to come together and make beautiful music together. That Malcolm X and Martin Luther King will be able to come together and make beautiful things happen for our society. More than just Obama becoming president, but more of a legacy that really truly teaches our children not only do you can become president, but you believe that you can live long enough to become president. That we can change the words that are used in our language. We also worry about changing the word nigger and taking out the English language. Don't speak the word nigger. Not with the hard ER. Don't use that. You don't use the word E with the GA at the end either. We don't use that word. We need to get rid of that word. We need to get rid of that word, but what about these other words we use? What about these other words we're using, people? How about this word? Kill game. The murder game. What about them words? What about taking those words out? Because that's how we speak about killing each other. The murder game. Who's created the murder game? Okay? And what part of it, who's the winner and who's the loser in that game? I'll answer that question for you. Both people. The person who's shooting and the person who's died. And not only that, the person who died family is the victim and the loser in that game. The person, the shooter's family, is the loser in that game. Because we lose two people in that situation, no matter how it ended. But we talk and we speak through society, through our media outlets about the murder game. We highlight the murder game. We use those type words, the murder game. And we speak that into our children as if this is like a game of Monopoly. Like this is Fortnite or this is Call of Duty, where if you kill somebody, there's a reset button, and tomorrow they wake up and we start all over again. That's not true. But this is the words we use, people, that denigrate and divide us because we use words like the murder game, not understanding the true meaning, the underlying meaning of that word and what it truly means and what I'm talking about, but the mathematics of society and how it leads to our division and our destruction. Because when you think about the murder game, what it really symbolizes is the division of us shooting and killing each other. The genocide of the black race where we're killing our young children or young women. We think about the projects, a place of public projects, a place that was supposed to be built, affordable housing for black people. But you think about things like words like welfare, which was supposed to be there to assist people who fall on hard times. But in reality, what did the welfare program do? It took black fathers out of the house, because if a mother was on welfare, the father could not live in the house. A mother could not receive welfare. A family could not receive welfare if the father was in the house. Who do you think that was affected? And how do you think that was affected? Listen to that word, welfare. And when you research that word, it never says the word division. You never see the mathematics and the numbers of them giving you money and how they divide and destroy and denigrate the black family. Because when you take the black father out of that household, what do you leave that son with? What do you leave that daughter with? Let's talk about it for a second, people. Let's talk about the division of what it does, the mathematical division of society, and these words that are being used, and how we are using these words to destroy and denigrate our own family, our own future, generations to come. You take the father of that household, you're leaving a son that's growing up with a mother that's trying to work 2 jobs to get off of welfare to be able to afford to take care of kids. You're taking away that leadership, that structure. You're taking away the foundation of the family when you're stripping the father away, leading to that young man. Almost 60% of young men with growing up without a father in prison, or going to jail, or made up in prison. So when you take that father out, you're basically giving this boy a death sentence, or saying, yo, he's going to jail. You're pushing him into gang life. You talk about eliminating gang life, but you're multiplying the gangs, because when that young man growing up with no father figure in the household, no father, because he's been pushed out so the mother can receive welfare, he's looking for that love. He's looking for that guidance, and he's finding it in the streets. And streets, as we know, don't love you. And no matter how much the mother tries to hold her children and tell them the streets don't love you, they never realize it. You wonder why the disrespect of our black women are happening so much. The black women are being disrespected by these young men who are growing up with these women, and these women happen to be these young men disciplinary. You got young women growing up with no father figure, and you wonder why they're growing up and, looking for these dudes and having all these kids. You talk about, man, ain't crap, you shouldn't have a baby by them, but they're looking for love because they never experienced love. Why? Because things like welfare created a way where the black man was divided, removed, separated, subtracted from that family, and that family was divided up into destruction, broken down to pieces where you're easier to conquer. When you break it down deeper, we think about our young black women who are giving labor, who are giving birth to our children, who are going to hospitals, who are never leaving the hospital, dying on labor tables, dying after giving birth to their children because they're telling the doctor, yo, I'm feeling something funny. My legs are starting to feel numb. I feel this pain. And the doctor throwing them a couple of times on ignoring these black mothers. But there's no black father by his side speaking up for these women. Because us as men, a lot of us black men, never knew how to be a father, never lived in a stable environment. Because you think about projects, public housing, affordable public housing, where a lot of times a man can't live there. Welfare, where a man can't live there, or a woman can't receive welfare if the father is living in the house. Removing that. And these young men are growing up with no father figure, not seeing a healthy relationship. So these mothers are giving birth to these children, and no one's listening to these black women. You look at these black women are so strong. They can absorb the pain. Look at all the things they accomplished all throughout their lives. These women are strong. They all right. They have black women have high tolerance of pain. And as they tell these hospitals, they're telling them, like, yo, I'm feeling something funny in my legs. I know my body, they're being ignored. There's no father figure, there's no man standing beside them to fight and speak up for these black women. So they're dying on the table. We're losing too many black women. We're losing too many black men. PNB Rock, a rapper from Philly, died in LA. What an awful house was girlfriend, Beyonce, whoever she was, after dropping a ping of her location on social media. We're losing young men successful young man. Who knows what this man could be? Again, I get it. Some people in society look at rap as this derogatory thing, and why would you make music that your children can't listen to, that you want what children listen to? And I think, why do actors make movies that their children can't watch? I mean, if you want to put it that way, but there's so much violence in rap music. Well, there's so much violence in regular movies. I love Equalizer too. Denzel Washington, hell of an actor, but he was killing a couple people in there. I mean, I think at the end he even poked the man's eye out before he blew his brains out. I mean, I'm just saying, there's a lot of violence in movies. Jay-Z has some famous lyrics. We talked about Jay-Z earlier, and y'all don't think he's a leadership, but he had a good point. Scarface, the movie, did more to him than Scarface the rapper did to him. Y'all don't know who Scarface the rapper is from Houston, Rap-A-Lot Records, Ghetto Boys, Mind playing tricks on me. Hell of a rapper. Don't get his just due. I digress. But Scarface the movie, Al Pacino, based on 1980s when the Mario boat lived. If y'all know about that history, it was when Castro had, what's his name? The president's gonna come back to me. I can see his face, but I can't remember the president of the United States at the time. But the point is, Castro sent all the people over in Mario boat lived from Cuba to Florida, and it created chaos, which was the prefix of how Scarface from the movie Scarface had begun, and how this man rise up to profitable living to American dream, from the gutters of Cuba to American dream, and that had influenced so many people from the hood. I had when my wife moved to my house, I had Scarface posters, Scarface everything. For black people, it was a representation of us going from the bottom to the top. And that movie did more to us than any rap album did. But I say it again, it's a movie, people. But I digress because I'm going all the way off subject of what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the division that lives amongst us not fighting together. Let me explain something to you, people. I understand that us coming together and us living in harmony and us singing kumbaya and agreeing on everything is not logical. But the reality is, no one's saying that we must agree on everything. No one's saying that we must all have to share the same perspective. That's not even logical. It don't even make sense. And truthfully, that's not what I'm looking for. And that's not what I'm speaking about, of us all having the same perspective and the same beliefs. I'm talking about us putting our minds together and creating a better plan, not just for us, but for our children and our future generation of children, to turn back all this gun violence and genocide that's happening in not only this city, but cities in Chicago, New York, Wilmington, Philadelphia, St. Louis, and all across America. I'm talking about us getting together to figure out a way to fight back against gun violence and create a better community relationship between the police department, who's supposed to serve our community, and the black people who live in the community. I'm talking about finding a way to come together and discuss how we can protect our black women as they're sitting on a labor table, and that they leave their hospital with their child healthy and intact. I'm talking about creating wealth, and I'm not just talking about through Bitcoin. I'm talking about creating actual wealth in our family where we're not living in poverty, living in projects, living in places where you got to kick the father out of the household so you get welfare. I'm talking about putting us in political leaders. I'm talking about us finally learning to come together, not just to agree, but to argue respectfully, and then come up with a solution. Come up with a solution to turn back all the problems that we live, because we can continue to fight against each other. We can continue to war against each other. We can continue to throw mud on each other and throw mud on each other's names. We can continue to be divided. But as long as we remain divided, we remain conquered as a race. And the black race will always mathematically be denigrated, be destroyed, be lowered. We will continue to subtract our race, subtract our children from the equation, from the future. We will be continuing to subtract our names off those ballot boxes that says next vice president, next lawyer, next doctor, because we won't have the children to be able to lead the next generation, the next push for black excellence. But we as people, we as black leaders, I'm speaking to anybody who's doing the same thing I'm doing right now, to reach out. Let's come together. Let's fight for a better life, for a better future, for not only my children, but your children, all of our children. They said, well, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, let's recreate these villages. Let's create the next Black Wall Street. It ain't over yet. We ain't done. I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Past the Present Podcast. Remember to like, comment, subscribe to my channel if you're on YouTube. Rate this video if you're on Spotify. We getting everywhere, people, and we're going to be everywhere. Until next time, people, remember a few things. They will never be able to make me quiet. They'll never be able to silence me. I will always be here to talk to you as long as there's breath on my lungs. And the last thing is, they woke, they focus. Most important, people,